7 bone-chilling babysitter horror stories that will haunt you forever. The night was stormy, a tempest howling outside the windows, rattling the glass with an unsettling rhythm that echoed through the darkened house. Amber sat in the dim light of the living room, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She wasn't alone. The kids were asleep upstairs, but Amber felt eyes watching her, creeping into her thoughts, thickening the air around her. The babysitter tales she had laughed off with friends whispered through her mind like a haunting melody, curling into a sinister symphony. Then, the first strange element struck. A shadow flickered past the window. She sucked in a breath, her hands trembling against the couch cushions. What was that? Just the wind, she told herself, but the doubt gnawed at her gut. Shadows don't flicker like that. The house creaked, adding a haunting echo to her thoughts. Every groan and pop made her jump. Outside, trees swayed like ghostly figures, clawing at the night sky. Amber glanced at the clock. Midnight. The witching hour. Seems like stories always ramped up at this point. Suddenly, the phone rang, slicing through the uneasy silence like a blade. Who would call at this hour? Her fingers itched to ignore it, but curiosity pulled her in like a moth to a flame. The voice on the other end was raspy, out of breath. Get out of the house, now. A twist of ice surged down her spine. The line went dead, leaving a heavy silence that felt oppressive, like a choir of voices just waiting for her to crack. Her mind raced back to the stories babysitters lured into a trap, children disappearing in the dead of night. The air felt thicker, heavy with unshed fears. She could almost hear the clock ticking away her chances. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Amber took a moment, allowing herself to breathe. A memory of laughter echoed in her mind, but panic snapped her back. What should she do? Outside, the wind howled, and her brave heart twisted into knots. Slowly, she climbed the stairs, each step creaking like a warning. As she reached the top, a chilling calm fell over the house, as if it were holding its breath. Peering into the children's room, she found them fast asleep. But as she turned to leave, a soft rustle behind her sent her heart racing. Was someone in the hallway? Amber spun around, her breath hitched in her throat. The hallway was empty, but a feeling of dread thickened the air, a sharp reminder that stories don't just end where they seem to begin. As she stepped back, she noticed something out of place. The front door was ajar. A swirling breeze beckoned like an ominous whisper. What was waiting out there? A figure? Or just more shadows? Amber's pulse raced. What she didn't know was that the shadows don't just creep around the corners, they have stories of their own. And they're looking for an audience. Amber's heart thudded violently against her ribcage as she stared at the door, half open, the wind curling inside like a sinister invitation. In that moment, every babysitter horror story she'd ever heard roared back into her memory, vivid and terrifying. She could almost hear their whispers, luring, tricking, ensnaring. As the gust brushed past her, the chills sunk into her bones. Should she bolt for the kids? Or investigate this beckoning door? Just do something, she thought, her instincts warring with her sanity. With a trembling hand, she stepped closer to the door, the wooden frame cool against her palm. The storm rumbled outside, mirroring the chaos rising within her. She held her breath, peeking through the gap. Dark shapes swirled in the night, but nothing emerged. Silence had draped itself over her like a suffocating blanket. Maybe it was just the wind, but what if? Doubt twisted her stomach. Glancing back at the children's room, she reminded herself that their safety must come first. They were so small, so vulnerable. The last thing she wanted was to end up in one of those stories, an unfortunate footnote in someone else's twisted tale, but as she took a step backward, her foot brushed against something soft on the floor. Startled, she looked down. A stuffed bear. A small, familiar face stared back at her. It was Ethan's favorite toy, the one he never went to bed without. A spike of panic shot through her. Hadn't she tucked it in with him just minutes ago? Her mind raced. She had closed the bedroom door. There was no way the kids would have left their room to play without her noticing, unless swiftly, she turned, following the open door's path. The blackness beyond the threshold felt alive. Stepping into the darkness was like walking into a void. Where was her phone? She desperately fumbled for it in her pocket. A small beacon of light, just to see. Light flooded the area in front of her, illuminating patches of the night. Every step deeper into the hall was heavy. She felt like she was being dragged toward a chilling truth waiting to be uncovered. She shone the light at the far end of the hallway, where silence throbbed. A darkened corner loomed, swallowing her courage. Suddenly, the sound of laughter echoed softly from above. High-pitched and light, but undeniably eerie. It sent a rush of ice through her veins. Had the kids gotten out of bed after all? She turned quickly, heart hammering. With a shaky breath, Amber bounded back up the stairs. Each step was a bounce of dread. As she reached the top, she heard the laughter again, the kind that should belong to children enjoying a midnight prank, but the hint of something off made her pause. What she saw next turned her blood to ice. The bedroom door stood open wide, the room spilling out into the hall. Light flickered like a taunting candle, revealing the empty room. The beds were unmade and the children were gone. A rush of panic surged through her. Where could they be? The laughter sounded again. This time, it was different. Sicker. More sinister. Amber clutched her flashlight, unsure if she wanted to chase that sound or fear what it led to. Was this the end of her night, or just the beginning? Her chest tightened as she thought of those stories, how they never prepared you for the cold reality ahead. Could she be the next victim of the Shadow's tales? With the fear gripping her, Amber took a hesitant step toward the children's room, but as she did, the darkness seemed to thicken around her, and the laughter became a cacophony of glee, echoing down the hall. An unseen force urged her forward. Burnt shadows danced in her peripheral vision. She had to know. What was waiting for her in the dark? And what would the kids say if she found them? Amber was about to find out. Amber's breath caught in her throat as she peered into the empty children's room. The air felt charged, thick with expectation and dread. The flickering light danced mockingly, casting long fingers of shadow across the instantaneously hollow space. She swallowed hard, trying to steady herself, but fear rumbled in her gut like a heavy storm cloud. The laughter echoed again, now piercing and high, twisting her insides. It clawed at her, urging her to turn and run, but she found herself rooted in place, desperate for a sign, a clue. Where were Ethan and Lily? Hello. Her voice trembled, pitifully small against the overwhelming darkness. The only reply was silence, heavy and mocking. Turning her flashlight toward the large closet against the far wall, she hesitated, her heart pounding harder than before. Could they be hiding in there, playing a game? Panic clawed at her throat. The twisted concept of safety felt impossibly far away. She stepped toward the closet, the floor creaking beneath her foot. It felt as if the house itself drew a breath, holding its secrets close. With trembling hands, she reached out, grasping the handle, yanking it open. A wave of stale air hit her face, but the closet was empty. Just clothes, hanging lifelessly. At that moment, another round of laughter erupted, this time followed by a soft thud from downstairs. A jolt of adrenaline shot through her. She had to make a choice. Stay and search this room or confront whatever shadow lurked below. The floorboards beneath her felt as if they were whispering, nudging her toward the staircase. She stepped out of the bedroom, her flashlight beam trembling as it scanned the hall. Shadows shifted, forming grotesque shapes around her. Each step was an exercise in bravery as she descended the staircase slowly, the distant laughter still swirling in her head, taunting her. When she reached the bottom, her breath hitched. The living room was dimly lit by flickering candles that hadn't been there before. They swayed gently, casting eerie shapes across the walls. Curious, she approached them, uncovering the outline of a small childlike figure sitting on the sofa, back turned to her. "Ethan?" she called, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't move. A shadow cast over its form, and it seemed to brighten under the candlelight, but no discernible features emerged. Panic bubbled beneath her skin. Amber took a cautious step closer. "Lily? Is that you?" The figure slowly turned, the moment stretching, cruel and taut. What she saw made her stomach drop. It wasn't Lily or Ethan. The face that met her gaze was ghastly, eyes wide and void of life, a chilling, empty smile carved into its features. Amber stumbled back, heart racing as she fought the urge to scream. The laughter morphed into a mocking chorus, an orchestration of misery she never wanted to hear. This was no innocent prank. She backed away, the soft padding of her feet barely making a sound against the floor. With a deep breath, she turned to run, the shadows swirling at her heels, but the returning laughter filled the room, echoing in intensity. "Amber, where are you going?" A voice now called, a familiar tone wrapped in layers of deceit. Her gut twisted. It was Ethan, but something was off, horrifically wrong. Desperate to escape the grip of that laughter, Amber sprinted toward the front door, only to find it swinging shut impossibly fast. "Wait! Come back!" Ethan's voice again echoed, fainter, distant, almost teasing. The coldness creeping up her spine urged her forward. Was this a game? A nightmare? Or worse, a trap? As the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, Amber realized running might not be the answer anymore. She needed to confront this terror, or this might be her last night in this house. Getting closer to the truth would require more than courage. She would need to outsmart what waited in the dark. But what if facing it meant she lost herself in the process? With the laughter ringing in her ears, she crouched low, seeking the source while the house around her seemed to conspire. What awaited her? Could shatter her reality or shroud her story in darkness forever? Amber's heart raced as she crouched low, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. The flickering candlelight danced around her, making everything feel alive, twisting the shadows into grotesque forms. Eyes darting, she tried to quiet the chaotic din in her mind. The laughter echoed again, a chilling symphony that sent shivers down her spine. "Ethan!" she called out, her voice desperate and small. "Lily? You frantically seeking them?" The voice was a mockery of Ethan's, chillingly sweet. It slithered through the room like smoke, wrapping around her, pulling her closer to the edge of insanity. Summoning every ounce of courage she possessed, Amber pushed herself up from the floor and crept toward the dining room where the brooding shadows gathered more thickly. The faint sound of movement drew her, and maybe just a whisper of fabric brushing against wood. "Show yourself." She moved forward, adrenaline fueling her steps. The oppressive darkness loomed, but she had to know. Were they really here? Were they okay? The room was an eerie tableau, with dishes perfectly arranged on the table, but the atmosphere thrummed with danger. If she was going to confront whatever nightmare had settled in this house, she needed to gather her strength. Whispers echoed, touching her skin like the chill of a winter blast. "They're waiting for you so close." Amber felt dread coiling tighter. The air stank of mildew and something sweet, sickly, tempting. She swallowed hard, focusing on each breath. "I will find them," she whispered fiercely, though doubt gnawed at her resolve. Then, a flash, a small, familiar shape darted through the shadows. She froze, pulse racing. Was that Lily? "Lily!" Amber shouted, breaking into a run, eyes darting in the darkness. The figure disappeared before her, flitting away, giggling. "Catch us if you can." Panic surged. Amber dashed into the living room again, but stopped short at the sight of dozens of reflections staring back at her from the walls, broken mirrors lined them, each showing a different moment of her life, her laughter, her fears, her worst mistakes. "Let them go!" she screamed at the mirrors, her own voice rebounding grotesquely. "Why would we do that? There's so much fun to play with." The mirrors laughed, mocking her, reviving the terror that churned inside her. Amber turned away, refusing to let the reflections tear her apart. Her breath quickened, each heartbeat pounding like a war drum. She needed to escape these grips of madness, find Ethan and Lily, and unravel this nightmare. Following the echo of their laughter, she dashed past the kitchen. The toy truck that Lily loved sat abandoned in the middle of the floor, as if awaiting her return. She recalled the last time they played together, memories swimming through her mind as she tried to tune out the incessant laughter melding with the whispers. Amber, she whirled at the new voice, breath hitching in her throat. Ethan emerged from the shadows of the hallway, standing perfectly still, his expression almost serene. But something felt utterly wrong. The flicker of candlelight cast harsh shadows across his face, and for one fleeting heartbeat, it felt as if he wasn't entirely there. Just an echo, a ghost of her brother twisted by this house's whims. "Where's Lily?" she demanded. "Look inside, you have to understand." His voice trailed off, distorting into the cacophony surrounding her. "Understand what?" Amber felt panic surge as the walls seemed to lean closer, smothering her in darkness. "Find her before it's too late." As if fueled by his words, the room shifted violently, and the walls rippled. Fear erupted within her. Amber glanced back toward the living room, her mind racing as the shadows began to close in again. But she wouldn't back down. Ignoring the laughter and whispers, she sprinted toward the only door where the shadows broke, resolute. "I'll find you, Lily." What lay ahead was unknown, but she had to make this choice. What if the truth she uncovered was worse than she dared to imagine? As Amber pushed through, she realized she was about to step into the very heart of her fears, where reality blurred with nightmarish possibilities. Amber stumbled as she stepped through the door, the air thickened with an oppressive weight. She felt an icy draft slither around her, wrapping around her like ghostly fingers. The room before her was dark, void of any shapes or forms, just an endless abyss. But ahead, a faint glow flickered, pooling at the far end like a beacon leading her deeper into the unknown. "Lily!" she called again, her voice echoing against the cold walls. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the house itself was testing her resolve. She could almost hear the laughter skittering away, further retreating into the shadows. As she moved closer to the light, her heart pounded louder in her chest. Fear clawed at her throat, forcing her to swallow hard. Was Lily truly safe? Or was she leading her into a trap? The glow brightened as she approached, revealing a scene that froze her in her tracks. It was a twisted version of her own living room, familiar yet distorted. The furniture was arranged in perfect order, but it felt foreign, synthetic, as if it had been crafted by someone who hadn't a notion of what home truly was. The very fabric of her reality seemed to warp and ripple, every corner filled with lurking darkness, and then, she saw them, her mother and father, sitting silently on the sofa. Their eyes were wide and unblinking, fixed in a stare that sent chills racing down Amber's spine. "Mom? Dad?" she rasped, confusion tightening her throat. A low chuckle rose from the back of her mind, the echo of 1,000 whispers. "They can't hear you, Amber. They're just reflections like the mirrors." The shadows shifted, swirling around her like a living thing, tightening around her limbs. Panic ignited within. "Leave them alone!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the thick air like a knife. "They're part of the game now, just like Lily." The voice was feminine, sing-song, taunting her with sinister glee. Unsure of what to believe, Amber's eyes darted around the space. "What did you do to her?" she cried, each word thick with fear. "Find her, dearie. She's waiting, but not like you think." The twisted laughter of the unseen entity crescendoed, wrapping around her like a noose. Just then, she spotted another flicker near the floor, yet another small form darting past, disappearing down a hallway cloaked in lingering shadows. Lily! Amber yelled, pursuing the shape. The weight of the darkness enveloped her again, seeking to drag her down. The hallway seemed endless, with doors lining the walls, each one slightly ajar, a thin strand of light spilling through the cracks. As she sprinted, echoes of laughter followed, morphing from eerily childlike giggles to guttural snarls, tugging at her sanity. Amber paused at the first door, the handle cold against her palm as she opened it just a crack. Inside, crumpled papers littered the floor, her history written in a jumble of words and sketches, memories shattered like glass. Every time she opened a door, she saw pieces of her life spiral into chaos. "Lily, where are you?" she shouted, feeling her heart shatter with every breath. Her voice bounced back to her, taunting, mixing with the laughter that filled the air. Amber, a distant voice, sweet yet filled with haunting despair. Hope surged within her for a moment, pushing away the suffocating darkness. Amber dashed toward the last door at the end of the hall, praying this would lead her to her sister. With a trembling hand, she flung the door wide open, gasping at what she saw inside. The room was bathed in light, bright and blinding, but in the center stood an empty crib, the sheets undisturbed, yet the echo of Lily's laughter lingered, thrumming through her like a heartbeat. "Lily! Where are you?" Desperation dripped from her voice, mixing with rising dread. The laughter faded, replaced by a shocking silence. And then she felt something brush against her ankle, warm and alive, yet impossibly wrong. She looked down, eyes wide, her breath hitching. The sight sent pure terror coursing through her. Ivy tendrils wrapped around her, pulsing with a life of their own, tightening their grip. With every passing second as the darkness closed in, Amber's thoughts raced. She needed to escape this nightmare, find Lily before it was too late. But that sweet, twisted laughter echoed in her mind. Would she be strong enough to face the truth lurking in the shadows? The walls appeared to thrum, alive with a dark, illicit magic that whispered back, "Come play with us." The moment she hesitated, the tendrils around her foot began to drag her back, as the echoes of her fears clawed at her mind. What awaited her behind the next door could change everything. Would she find Lily, or had the house already consumed her sister? Amber's heart raced as the ivy tendrils tightened their grip, squeezing out her breath like a vice. No. Not now. She fought against the pull, desperation clawing at her resolve. The laughter echoed, mocking her struggle. "Come play with us." The voice coiled through the air, almost playful, but laced with a sinister undertone. Amber's mind swirled with panic as the walls pulsed around her, the shadows dipping and swirling in a grotesque dance. With a surge of adrenaline, she dropped to the floor, tearing at the ivy with her fingers. The cool, damp surface of the floor suddenly felt alive, thrumming beneath her palms. She could hear the whispers rise, echoing her fears, her thoughts becoming a living thing. What if she never found Lily? What if the house consumed them both? "Stay strong, Amber," she thought, the mantra flashing in her mind like a neon sign. With one powerful pull, she tore the tendrils away from her ankle. A searing jolt shot through her leg as she felt the might of the house pulling back, but she forced herself to crawl toward the bright space of the last door, the only remaining escape. "Lily!" she screamed again, bearing her soul into the void. With a sudden burst of energy, she lunged into the blinding light, leaving behind the suffocating shadows. For a brief moment, she was blinded, every ounce of fear suspended in the luminescence. Then, her eyes adjusted. Amber found herself in a nursery, but it twisted her reality once more. The walls were painted in cheerful colors, bright yellows and soft blues, but they undulated menacingly, as if they were breathing. A grotesque mobile hung from the ceiling, spinning slowly, its shapes darkening the joyful colors around them. And in the center was a high chair, empty but adorned with a flowered bib that seemed to shimmer in the pale light. "Where are you?" she whispered, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. Suddenly, the laughter returned, louder and more insistent. It filled her head, resonating with her pulse. She backed away, eyes darting around for any sign of her sister. But the bright nursery was void of life, save for the sinister mobile that twisted above her. "Lily!" she screamed again, her voice raw, tears brimming her eyes. What kind of game was this? In response, the shadows pushed toward her again, swirling chaotically, hungry, greedy. Amber turned, thinking of escaping back through the door she just came through, but it shimmered as though it was fading away. It was all moving, shifting around her like quicksand. Lily. I'll find you. She cried, clenching her fists, a desperate resolution overpowering her fear. She threw herself toward the high chair, squinting into the depths around her. Stop. And then she heard it, so faint at first, but unmistakable. A small voice singing a twisted lullaby. Hope surged through her, cutting through the shrill laughter like a beacon. It felt wrong, yet it was all she had. Below under, the voice sang softly, drawing her attention to the floor beneath the high chair. With trembling knees, Amber dropped to the ground, pushing aside a plush rug adorned with cartoonish animals. The wood creaked as she pried up the panel, her heart hammering against her ribs. The darkness below seemed to breathe back at her, vibrant with a pulse all its own. Lily. She shouted one last time, as she prepared to plunge headfirst into the unknown, but just then, the world around her shattered, the walls convulsing in one giddy motion, a scream clawing its way out of her throat, and then everything went dark. What awaited her in that depth? Would she find her sister or descend further into madness? The secrets of the house loomed, hovering just out of reach, a chilling truth begging to be unveiled. The darkness felt like a living thing, wrapping around Amber as she plummeted into an abyss of silence. It engulfed her, and for an instant, she was weightless, suspended in a void. There was no ground, no walls, just an overwhelming sense of falling. A tightness gripped her chest as her mind raced through scenarios that paralyzed her with dread. Finally, she hit something solid, wood, rough against her back. She gasped, the air tugging at her lungs like a long-lost friend. The moments of quiet gave way to sounds of faint rustling, whispering voices, like echoes floating from the corners of her subconscious. Struggling to sit up, Amber blinked against the darkness. Her heart thundered in her ears, nearly drowning out the whispers. Shadows flickered in and out of view, dancing in the dim light that had seeped through a crack in the wall. Lily. She cried out again, each syllable breaking through her fear. Desperation drove her to push off the wooden floor, scanning her surroundings. The air thickened with a bitter scent, a mix of mold and something sweet, decaying flower petals, perhaps. Ahead, a sliver of light teased her, illuminating the edges of a narrow crawl space. She crawled, each movement stirring the dust, her breath ragged as she propelled herself forward. Lily. The name clawed its way from her throat, more a plea than a statement. She couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping through her fingers. As she squeezed through the narrow gap, shadows stretched and whispered around her. The voices grew louder, harmonizing in a chilling melody, like a lullaby turned nightmarish. Find us, join us, leave this world. Their words twisted around her, pulling on her mind like tendrils of ivy ready to ensnare her once more. Amber shuddered, shaking the dark sensation off as she emerged into a larger room. It was an underground cellar, with shelves sagging under the weight of dusty old toys and forgotten relics. Her eyes widened at the sight, but there was no time to linger. In the center, a small table stood, paint peeling, adorned with a porcelain doll missing an eye. Its creepy smile sent a shiver down Amber's spine. A sudden movement caught her attention, a flash of pale, familiar hair darting behind a dusty chest. Lily. Instinct pulled her toward it, but as she crossed the creaky floor, the shadows stirred, clustering around her like storm clouds. Whispers exploded into a deafening cacophony. She cannot stay. She cannot stay. The room trembled with their fervor, the walls pulsing as if they were alive, hungry for something. Someone, with her heart racing, Amber lunged for the chest, flinging it open. Nothing but emptiness stared back. Panic swept over her. Where was her sister? The laughter rose again, cruel and mocking. Amber, the voice was faint, thin as gossamer. But there it was again, the unmistakable sound of her sister. Help me, Lily. Where are you? Amber screamed, but no answer came. The shadows swirled closer now, a chilling embrace threatening to suffocate her will. She turned, feeling the pull of the shadows deepening, almost urging her to succumb to their madness. No. Amber clenched her fists, fighting back. She would not be just another lost soul in this cursed house. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The door. It stood ajar, light spilling through the crack, offering a slim promise of salvation. With renewed determination, Amber raced toward it, the whispers turning into screams. Leave her! Leave her! The chaotic energy surged around her, grappling at her limbs. Just as she reached for the knob, a hand shot out from the darkness, grabbing her wrist with bone-crushing force. It was cold, deadly cold. Amber. The voice was familiar. Don't go. You must stay. Caught in the thrall of a struggle, Amber turned, her heart sinking. The darkness opened, revealing hollow eyes and twisted features. It was her sister, but not her sister. Lily. She screamed, tugging against the grip. Fight it. Amber's struggle intensified, a battle not only for her own life but for Lily's very soul. Would she vanquish the relentless shadows or fall prey to the suffocating fate that awaited them both? The darkness shimmered, morphing and twisting, as the echo of her sister's cries pierced the around them. Time hung in fragile silence, ready to snap. What was the truth grasped in the shadows? Would Amber rescue her sister or become another whisper lost in the void? Amber felt the grip tighten, icy fingers digging into her skin. The look in Lily's eyes twisted her insides. They were empty, void of warmth, replaced with a hollow echo that sent shivers racing down her spine. Let go of me. Amber fought, adrenaline fueling her every motion. She kicked her legs, twisting around, desperate to break free from the apparition that held her so firmly ensnared. Please, Amber. The voice wavered, sounding eerily like her sister's but layered with something dark, something sinister. Stay with me, we can be together. No. Her voice cracked, filled with fear and pain. She wouldn't let the shadows take her too. The memories flooded her mind. Lily's laughter, their late-night games, the comfort of a sister's bond. This wasn't her sister. This was a twisted mockery. In a sudden surge of strength, Amber lunged forward, yanking herself away from Lily's grasp. She stumbled back, disoriented as the shadows flickered. The cellar walls seemed to ripple, creating an unsettling wave of darkness that whispered promises of despair. With her heart racing, Amber spotted a glimmer at the edge of the room. A rusty lantern flickered weakly. Its flickering flame was a beacon amidst the chaos. She darted toward it, each step feeling like a battle against quicksand, with the shadows clawing at her ankles, urging her to stop. No. She screamed. You won't take me. As her fingers grasped the lantern, the flame sputtered joyfully to life, casting a warm glow around her. The shadows recoiled, hissing like wounded animals, their whispers turning frantic as if they were losing their grip on her. Join us. Came the chorus from all sides. You belong here, the darkness is your home. Amber shook her head violently, tears blurring her vision. I have to find Lily. She turned, scanning the room, hoping for a sight of her sister. But the barrel of darkness at the far corner shimmered again, and from it, a shape emerged, a shade resembling Lily, but twisted and stretched, a grotesque parody of the girl she knew. Help me, Amber, it wailed, reaching out with claw-like fingers. You must come closer, become one with us. Amber's breath came in short gasps, her chest tightening with each word. The sight of something so familiar yet so painfully wrong shattered her heart. No, Lily. Fight it. You're stronger than this. The specter paused, brow wrinkling as if struggling against an invisible force. For a fleeting moment, Amber saw the flicker of recognition in those hollow eyes, and it filled her with a desperate hope. Amber, the voice was softer now, more like the Lily she knew. I'm scared. In that moment, the shadows surged forward, a dark wave crashing against the light. They lunged, wrapping around Amber, stealing her breath. You can't save her. You're too late. The lantern sputtered, dimming. Amber's mind raced. Could she save her sister? The answer fused with an urgent rage, and she tightened her grip on the lantern, heart pounding against the impending dark. I won't give up on you, Lily. She shouted, raising the lantern high. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury, their malice a palpable force trying to suffocate her spirit. She took a step forward, feeling a power swelling within her, fueled by love and determination. Amber, the warmth of Lily's name wrapped around her, almost igniting her resolve. Placing her foot down, she gathered every ounce of courage she could muster. I'm coming, Lily. We're getting out of here. As she advanced, the lantern burned brighter, scattering the shadows back into the corners of the cellar. She was making progress, but just then, a jagged laugh echoed, freezing her in place. Let her go. The darkness hissed. She's ours now. Amber's eyes widened, panic clawing at her throat. What did they mean by that? Would she lose Lily forever in this abyss, or could they both escape, hand in hand into the light? The walls trembled, the shadows swirling into a frenzy, preparing for a final confrontation. Would Amber have the strength to fight the anguish threatening to consume her sister? As the light flickered, revealing just enough of what lay ahead, Amber felt the ground beneath her wobble. What lay behind the shadows? Would she emerge victorious, or would that horrid laugh become her last memory? The shadows roared with a hunger that echoed like an ominous chant, threatening to swallow Amber whole. The laughter twisted, curdling her blood, while the ground beneath her surged with an unnatural force. Despite the deepening twilight, the lantern's light flickered defiantly, its flame casting a glow that was both comforting and an affront to the darkness. Amber. The voice was a fragile thread, tying her to clarity, but each second felt transmuted into an eternity. Hurry. It was Lily, or rather the shadow of her sister, clawing at the remnants of sanity. Amber dug her nails into the lantern, which seemed to pulse with energy as her determination coalesced into something tangible. Stay away. She roared, taking a step forward, feeling the buoyancy of hope lifting her. The spectre's claws scratched the air, grasping for what it couldn't have. The room shivered, and for a moment, Amber felt anchored by something deeper than fear, a bond of love carving a path through despair. Please, Amber, I can't hold them back. Lily's voice quaked. The distance between them blurred, and Amber realized the shadows around her sister were coiling tighter, threatening to pull Lily into their abyss. No. Amber shouted, the passion in her voice punctuating the stillness that hovered like a breath held too long. She pressed forward, illuminating her path step by step, feeling the shadows seethe and hiss as she treaded closer. Fight it, Lily. You're stronger. Amber implored, feeling tears streak her cheeks. With each word, she channeled her love, a lighthouse guiding her sister against the tempest of darkness. The specter faltered, flickering like the failing flame of the lantern. I'm scared. Lily's form quaked with a feeble flicker of recognition. The darkness pulsed, whispering threats and despair, trying to snuff out the light of Amber's voice, but Amber surged forward undeterred. In an impulsive burst, she lunged toward the specter, shining the lantern directly into the hollow eyes. Lily. Remember us. Remember the games we played. The treehouse we built. A jolt of recognition shimmered in Lily's ghostly form, and Amber saw her sister settle back for a heartbeat. Amber, help me please. The shadows howled, their wailing a cacophony of chaos. You can't win. She is trapped. They screeched, lashing out with tendrils of shadow that lashed around Amber, biting into her skin, chilling her to the bone. I won't let you take her. Amber screamed. She raised the lantern even higher, defiance erupting from deep within her core. The glow intensified as if responding to her fiery spirit, and the shadows recoiled, howling in pain. The whispering echoes of Lily's laughter began to pierce the despair, a reminder of who they were, a reminder of family. With a final surge of will, Amber pressed forward, feeling the cabinet of darkness collapsing around her. The lantern exuded a brilliant light that split the veil of shadows. She could see it now, the outline of the real Lily trapped within, her features etched with sorrow but beginning to shimmer with hope. Amber. Her sister's voice was clearer now, fighting the malevolence surrounding her. I'm here. But as Amber stretched out a hand, the darkness retaliated violently blurring the line between light and dark. The space trembled, and Amber felt the floor give beneath her feet, a shift in reality that threatened to drag her down with the shadows. Stand strong, Lily. She cried, heart hammering, desperate to grasp her sister's hand and pull her from the abyss. We can do this. But the shadows roared back, surging in an undulating mass, trying to wrestle Amber down. You will pay for this defiance. Amber's heart raced. Could they really fight this madness together? Or would this moment be their last? The lantern flickered, but in that brief flicker, a spark ignited within Amber, a bond she could use. This ends now. She shouted, summoning deep within her the strength that love provides, ready to make her final stand against the storm. The darkness screamed, 1,000 voices crying in unison, a tempest raging around her. Would Amber's love be strong enough to pierce through the eternal night? With a deafening thunderclap, the shadows surged wildly, testing her resolve. Could this be the moment of reckoning? Would the light conquer all? Or would the darkness swallow her whole? Amber's determination surged like a tidal wave, crashing through the despair that had wrapped itself around her heart. She pressed the lantern closer to her chest, heart pounding louder than the tumult around her. This is for you, Lily. She shouted, her voice unyielding against the shadows that coiled hungrily around her. The darkness roared, feral and wrathful. You think your little light can save you? The voices hissed, shrill and mocking, blending into a terrifying cacophony. But Amber's resolve resonated louder, fueled by the memories of her sister, the moments they had shared, the bond that had always been their strength. Lily, remember when we made that big fort in the living room? Amber called out, eyes locked onto the twisted figure of her sister, the ghostly shape wavering in the shadows. We can build it again. Just like before. For a heartbeat, Amber thought she saw a flicker of recognition, as if the shadows hesitated, unsure of their grip. That moment of hesitation filled Amber with audacity. She charged forward, clenching the lantern fiercely, illuminating the space between them. Come back to me. She pleaded, reaching for her sister's hands, shaking with urgency. The shadows writhed, pulling back as the lantern's glow intensified. The cold grip around her heart began to loosen. Fight it, Lily. You're stronger than this. The specter trembled, her hollow eyes filled with turmoil. Amber. I can't. Yes, you can. Amber's voice was a lifeline, unraveling the twisted cords of darkness. She felt the shadows seethe, a frenzy igniting around them, but she pushed through. You have to believe in us. We aren't just echoes, we're sisters. At that moment, Amber could feel the chill of the shadows coiling tighter, trying to drag her away from her lifeline. I won't leave you. She turned the lantern toward the center of the chaos, the light intensifying with every heartbeat, radiating a golden warmth that pushed against the biting cold. Together, we can beat them. With every ounce of energy, Amber charged toward Lily's distorted figure, desperation fueling her flight. The luminous glow broke through the oppressive darkness, illuminating the depths of their shared memories and love. The shadows screeched, a sound that clawed at Amber's very essence, but she would not falter. Lily. Remember the swings? Amber shouted. The laughter. The summer days. Focus on me. Focus on love. That is our power. Lily's form flickered, the spectral shadows around her wavering as the love in Amber's words struck deep. Amber. I see you. Her voice struggled against the cacophony, laced with a raw urgency. I'm scared. Me too. Amber shouted, emotion spilling out like a rushing waterfall. But we can get through this together. Don't let them take you. As she called out to Lily, the shadows wailed, thrashing violently. No. She belongs to us. They became a dreadful storm, swirling in an unholy frenzy, but Amber stood tall, unwavering. Suddenly, a surge of light erupted from the lantern, a brilliant flash that split the darkness and smote the shadows like a sword. Amber felt its warmth envelop her, a protective energy coursing through her as she extended the lantern, drawing her sister nearer. Take my hand. We can burn them away together. With trembling fingers, Lily reached out. Their hands clasped, and in that timeless moment, the bond reaffirmed the fierce love that had always been their strength. The shadows shrieked in pandemonium, a cacophony of rib-rattling fury. As the sisters connected, the light blazed brighter, a blazing sun banishing the night. Fight! Amber yelled, the power of their bond surging, lighting the very core of their spirits. The lantern unleashed a brilliant wave, flooding the cellar with radiant energy that seemed to silence the darkness, and then, with one last deafening cry, the shadows recoiled, howling as the light consumed them. The walls trembled violently, a vortex of despair spiraling into oblivion. Amber kept her grip tight around Lily's hand, pulling her toward the luminous escape. Stay with me. She cried, the light enveloping them both, radiating warmth that washed over them like a cleansing tide. That a rushed blur of energy surrounded them, moments of laughter, of cherished memories spinning through the glowing void. As the darkness shrieked its final wail, the glow intensified, culminating in a searing explosion of light that ruptured the very fabric of the night, and then, silence. Amber opened her eyes to find herself sprawled on the wooden floor of the living room, the lantern flickering nearby. The candles still glowed softly, warming the space like a familiar embrace. Beside her, Lily stirred, confused but alive, her expression blooming into relief as she saw Amber. Amber! Lily gasped, disoriented. What happened? I think we won, Amber answered, pulling her sister into a bone-crushing hug, as warmth suffused her heart. We did it. We beat the darkness. But deep down, they both knew the shadows might always remain, lurking in the corners of their minds. Those stories would still linger, but together, they had shined brightly against the night. Hand in hand, they ventured into the world, a world of light and love, forever intertwined. As they slipped outside into the cool, moonlit night, the house stood quiet, the dark whispers faded into the distant memories of a nightmare conquered. In that moment, they breathed in freedom, their bond deeper and stronger than ever, and as they walked away, Amber heard a gentle voice whisper through the night, we have more stories yet to tell together. But now, dear friends, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep creating these spine-chilling tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about tonight's ending, because we want to hear from you, the amazing community. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world to us.